Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today is the second day, the 2nd of December 2020, the third day at the African International Mediation Week. This particular session is the morning session running from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The session is the International Seminar on Mediation in the Extractives sector. This particular session is hosted in collaboration with the Coast Mediation and Legal Consultants, and we will commence this session by reciting the words of the national anthem in English. O God of all creation, bless this our land and nation. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the session on navigating the waves of the blue economy through mediation. Good morning, Ms. Namachi. Ms. Namachi, good morning.
Good morning. My apologies. My machine seemed to have a challenge there with the connection. Thank you, Sarah. I believe you've introduced the topic.
Yes, and please proceed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. To our participants this morning and our esteemed panel, I give you a warm welcome to this day's webinar. Our topic of the day is navigating the blue economy using mediation. And we are looking to hearing of the opportunities that are there for mediators in the blue economy, as well as understanding what the blue economy is really all about, because we cannot venture into an area that we are not informed about. So to help us understand this topic and be able to really gain the insights that we hope to get at the end of this discourse is a panel that I will be introducing shortly. But I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Joy Namachi, a director at Coast Mediation Center, which is an organization based at the port city of Mombasa. And Coast Mediation Center is an organization that is focused on conflict management using mediation as well as other ADR methods. And Coast Mediation Center is a fairly young organization that has been around for just over 2 years, but we are making a mark. And we are delighted this morning to be partnering with yet another remarkable organization, Wasilianahub Mediators, to be able to be presenting to you this session this morning. So I'll go right away to introduce the panel who are present with us. I'll begin with Mr. Benrick Ogutu. Mr. Benrick Ogutu holds a Master of Science degree in Fisheries Science and is currently the Assistant Director of Fisheries and working for the Kenya Fisheries Service based in Mombasa. And Mr. Benrick Ogutu is concerned or supervises the fish inspection and quality assurance. And as you know, the Kenya Fisheries is among the key parastatals that are represented in the Blue Economy Implementation Committee. So Mr. Benrick Ogutu, you're most welcome, and we'll be looking forward to hearing the details of this implementation committee and the role of your institution in the blue economy. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And I will also introduce Ms. Shigoli, Ms. Joy Kubai-Shigoli. She's a director at the Coast Mediation Center. And Ms. Shigoli holds an LLM or a master's degree in law from the London Metropolitan University. She also holds an MBA in strategic management from the University of Nairobi. She is also a certified mediator and therefore will be in a good position to be giving us the practitioner's view of mediation and mediation in other sectors. She also has a vast experience in shipping and logistics, having served in the capacity of a legal and HR manager at the CMA CGM shipping line, and also the Multiple Solutions Limited. And this she has done for a number of years, over 10 years. And we are really pleased that Ms. Shigoli, you're here to give us your wealth of information based on your experience. Karibu sana. Then we have Dr. Innocent Wanyonyi, also Dr. Wanyonyi, I'll be calling you Dr. Wanyonyi. Dr. Wanyonyi is a director at the Coastal Marine and Resource Development called COMRED. COMRED is an NGO based in Mombasa, Kenya, and is focused on conservation of coastal and marine environments, and also addressing the problems that concern the communities that live around this marine environment, all with the purpose of promoting sustainable development. Dr. Wanyonyi specializes in tropical artisanal fisheries and coastal resources management. And over the years, Dr. Wanyonyi has led many projects in his area of expertise and has also worked for various research and academic institutions. He is actually very well versed in this area, and we look forward to hearing from him in as far as his experience and his knowledge in this sector is concerned. So karibu sana, Dr. Wanyonyi. We are really glad to have you on the panel. Now, before we proceed, I'll just give an apology. We had Mr. David McKay, who's the director of NISOMA. It's a shipping line, also based in Mombasa. Mr. McKay was to be with us this morning, but unfortunately, he had a family emergency and therefore could not be able to join us this morning. So we apologize for that. And on his behalf, we just wish him the very best as he addresses the emergency. So without further ado, I'm sorry, I seem to have forgotten our panelist, Madam PS. Madam PS, I'm sorry, I was not aware that you're in the room already. Ms. Karigithu. Thank you. So also on our panel is Mrs. Karigithu, who is currently the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Shipping and Maritime in the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development and Public Works. Ms. Karigithu, I'm sure for many may not need really an introduction. She's a trailblazer in this industry. And we are really pleased that she could join us this morning. Ms. Karigithu has a bachelor's degree of law from the University of Nairobi and a master's degree in international maritime law from IMO, International Maritime Law Institute in Malta. She has been the DG or the Director General of Kenya Maritime Authority for a number of years, about 10 years. She's also served as the chair of International Maritime Authority, IMO, for 3 terms consecutively, and currently sits in the Board of Governors of the World Maritime University, WMU, based in Malmö, Sweden. Ms. Karigithu has a wealth of experience in the maritime industry, over 30 years experience, and she has also been involved in a number of key initiatives that have promoted or opened up the maritime space for particularly women. She has been involved in setting up and launching the Association of Women in the Maritime Sector in East and South Africa, WOMESA, where she served for 2 terms and is currently sitting as the chairperson of the Governing Council. And just recently, Mrs. Karigithu was honored with an honorary fellowship by the World Maritime University in 2019 because of her distinguished service in the maritime sector. So we are really honored that you could join us, Madam PS. Karibu sana to this webinar, and feel at home.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So we will swiftly move to our panel discussion of the day, and I'll encourage the participants to engage with us through the chat. You can post questions, you can post your comments, and we will address, we'll give you an opportunity to ask and also give our panelists a chance to respond to your questions at the end of the session. So beginning as of, we will start with you, Madam PS. You can briefly tell us what exactly is the blue economy. For a number of participants, this is a fairly foreign term or something that they've heard about, but they really don't know what it comprises. So would you please give us in a very brief overview of what the blue economy is about?
Thank you so much, Joy. Let me start by acknowledging and really lauding the host of this webinar, the Coast Mediation and Legal Consultants Limited, in your partnership with Wasilianahub mediators. It's an eye-opener even for me to see the kind of initiatives that are coming up in this space. And I think we are almost ready for takeoff as a maritime nation. Listening to you doing the introductions, I also realized that we've got a wealth of resource persons in this area that some of them I didn't know about, and I'm looking forward to interacting with them even more. So let me start without further ado, acknowledging my fellow panelists, Benrick Ogutu, Dr. Ngao, and Madam Shigoli. Good morning to all of you, as well as the participants. Now, I'll quickly go to the concept of blue economy. And let me say that this is a developing concept that has caught the world by surprise, because post the conference on the earth we want, set by the United Nations, the Pacific Islands, because the theme was green economy, they looked around them and they saw no green, they only saw blue. And therefore, they came up with this concept and said, now, if we don't have the green, what do we have? We've only got water. We are surrounded by vast spaces of water. And therefore, the concept started there because they were feeling left behind, and they introduced us to this, and it caught, the wave caught. And now it's all the rave with the UNDGs, you know, that they were, the blue space was included as one of, and having its own separate SDG, life under the water. So blue economy refers to the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs, and ocean ecosystem health. It comprises of very many activities. We are told that this is a space with 13 sectors, 15 subsectors, and 87 different activities. And some of them we may be familiar with, and I'll name just but a few. Maritime transport, we've got fishing, including sports fishing, aquaculture and mariculture. We've got tourism, shipbuilding and repair, maritime education and training, marine cargo logistics, maritime law, safety and security, marine salvage, international shipping, of course, as well as local shipping, energy, including wave power, and also offshore drilling, offshore mining, marine biotechnology, aqua business, cargo consolidation, marine insurance, bunkering, ship handling, port agency, port-related services, water sports, as well as marine and maritime governance. So I'll name just those few, but like I said, we've got 87 different activities in this area. Like I said, it's a developing world concept that aims to contribute to economic development, particularly for communities and populations living around water bodies, and also aims to contribute to economic, I said, development and environmental protection, and most important, improved livelihoods. The African Union wasn't left behind after taking the, taking in what has happened on the global platform, and therefore, in the AU Agenda 2063, dubbed the Africa We Want, the BE is recognized as a goal, one of the goals for Africa's accelerated economic growth. Coming closer home, the government of Kenya has not been left behind. And with all this happening, we've taken steps now to mainstream the blue economy into national economic development. And this has been done through the third medium-term plan for 2018 to 2022. As you are aware, the medium-term plan is the tool, 5-year tool that is used to implement the Vision 2030. So the maritime sector has been put under the economic pillar. It's the 8th sector of the economic pillar, expected to contribute to Kenya's long-term blueprint of development, the Kenya Vision 2030. We know that Kenya's blue economy currently contributes only a measly 178.8 billion to the annual GDP, but we know that if fully exploited, this sector alone has the potential to generate revenue approaching 500 billion per year, and that's the expectation of the MTP3. I submit, Chair, until the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam PS. That was a very rich introduction to the blue economy. I've also picked a thing or two that there are so many activities under this sector, and those are opportunities mediators. Stay tuned, because we'll be talking about the opportunities under those within those activities under the blue economy. So, Madam PS, perhaps you can now mention what is the regulation, or what is the legal structure or framework that supports the blue economy in Kenya? Sorry, you're muted.
I'm back. Okay. Currently, we've got various laws in place that govern the blue economy. And perhaps one of the other things that I may have omitted is to say that blue economy is scattered through a wide spectrum of government. So you cannot say that a blue economy may comfortably sit in only one area. And recently, as a department, we did an expose. We wanted to see and look at what it entails, and we found that various policies rest with various ministries and departments, and we counted no less than 22. But I'm going to give a very brief outline of the laws we have in place right now, beginning with the Maritime Zones Act of 1989, which actually defines Kenya's maritime boundaries and the declared zones in alignment with the UNCLOS, that's the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And the Maritime Zones Act sets out our territorial sea as well as the exclusive economic zone. And as you know, that UNCLOS is the mother of all laws governing the oceans and all activities, all rights, all obligations that nation states have in that area. Then next, we've got the Kenya Ports Authority, if I may begin there, because it was enacted in 1978. This is what set up the Kenya Ports Authority as a port to operate port services and also give facilities for ships. Then Kenya Maritime Authority incorporated Kenya Maritime Authority Act incorporated the Kenya Maritime Authority as Kenya's maritime administration or regulator, responsible for implementing, again, the jurisdictions set about by UNCLOS, that is the flag state, port state, and coastal state mandates of Kenya as a nation. Merchant Shipping Act is actually the law, complete legislation that regulates that space. And it takes on board a lot of the conventions, international maritime conventions, both from IMO, ILO, and other bodies that regulate the zones that I've described, and therefore sets the proprietary interest in ships, sets the laws for training and terms of engagement of seafarers, deals with safety of navigation, safety of cargoes, collisions, carriage of bulk and dangerous cargoes, pollution, maritime security, liabilities for ship owners and others, and most important, inquiries and investigations into marine casualties and other connected purposes. Now, I'm in a house of experts. One of the areas that we are missing is Admiralty jurisdiction legislation to add value, or rather to help Kenya Maritime Authority and other bodies implement properly the Merchant Shipping Act. We've got a lot of work to do there in terms of maritime governance. I may mention here also Environmental Management Coordination Act of 1999, which relates, because it sets the umbrella legislation, but also gives lead management for various sectors. Then you'll see that while MCA provides the coordination mechanism, then the responsibilities go to lead sectors, and therefore marine pollution by reference would also fall under this act. Fisheries Act of 2012 provides for the development, management, exploitation, utilization, and conservation of fisheries and for connected purposes. Then we've got one of the most modern legislations lately arrived, and I'm sure my fellow panelist Ben may talk more about this. The Fisheries Management Development Act of 2016, which provides for conservation, management, and development of fisheries and other aquatic resources in order to enhance the livelihoods of communities dependent on shipping. The Mining Act, like I said, offshore mining is an area of interest to the blue economy and comprises a major component of activities happening there. And therefore, the Act provides provisions relating to extraction of mineral resources in the Kenyan waters. And finally, the latest baby on the block is Kenya Coast Guard Service Act of 2018, which establishes multi-agency Kenya Coast Guard Service to enforce maritime security and safety, enforce marine pollution control, enforce prevention of trafficking of narcotic drugs, prohibited plants and psychotropic substances in the marine space, enforce pollution of trafficking of illegal goods, firearms and ammunition, enforce sanitation measures in the maritime space. Port and coastal security is also provided under the purview of this new agency. Search and rescue, very, very important, as well as now the protection of maritime resources, among others. Like I said, all this legislation speak to different components of the blue economy. And one of the areas we are pursuing as a department is the integration of all maritime policies. And that calls for having an integrated national maritime policy, which will bring everything together. Because as you see, this is an area with different competing interests and therefore the potential for a lot of sibling rivalry. So unless we've got an integrated view of the space, we may not be able to exploit the area properly. For example, there are some other areas that I've not even mentioned, like the health. You realize now in the wake of Corona, public health has become a major player in the blue space in order to prevent contamination between the shipping industry and land and vice versa. So the Lands Ministry, because as you are aware, the Ministry of Lands is the one that's responsible for spatial planning and also in terms of setting out surveys and sorry, I hope you didn't lose me for a bit. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So we have a lot of work integrating the 22 ministries and departments that I mentioned. And of course, like I said, you've got a lot of expertise on your panel, and we may be looking up to them later to jointly do this together. I submit, Chair, for that unless there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Madam PS. We appreciate. Mr. Ogutu, Benrick, kindly.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. This is for you.
Yes.
As a member of the Blue Economy Implementation Committee, what is the role of your institution?
Yeah, thank you very much.
And perhaps, Mr. Ogutu, you could, together with that, firstly tackle what is the mandate of the Blue Economy Implementation Committee before you go to the role of your institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question. As you heard, I am an assistant director working for Kenya Fisheries Service. I'm actually based in Mombasa. And of course, as Madam PS has mentioned, the blue economy has so many sectors. Fisheries is one of them. And of course, being a government agency, we're operating under an act of parliament, really the act under which we operate for now is the Fisheries Management and Development Act, number 35 of 2016, which repealed the former Fisheries Act, chapter 378. So the Fisheries Management and Development Act, number 35 of 2016 is our legal framework. And of course, our main mandate is conservation, management, and the development of fisheries resources on behalf of the government. Therefore, in the Blue Economy Implementation Committee, our main task is we are looking at how investors can come and invest in the blue economy. Of course, we all know that our government, all the way from independence in 1963, our focus has been on the green economy, agriculture. But we really, it's like we forgot that there was another sector which had, in fact, I can say even a bigger potential than agriculture. We had the blue economy, which if you compare with agriculture, the blue economy is really poorly invested in. We have so little investors. Madam Pierce gave us statistics on our expectations. What we are getting from the blue economy as for now is really little. This is a sector which has a potential of giving much more to the country. Therefore, as for now, we are looking at how ways investors can invest in this sector because the investment is very limited. We have fishery resources in the oceans, but the people who are exploiting them for the moment are not Kenyans, are foreigners. As a country, we have been issuing foreign fishing licenses for a long time because we had limited capacity. We have little vessels of our own fishing outside there. Our fishermen can only be limited to fishing in the inshore waters. Very few of them can manage to fish in the exclusive economic zone. Our focus, we want to promote people to invest so that we really exploit, especially our exclusive economic zone and even international waters. So as a country, we are looking at how we can convince investors to come. We talk to them, we look at our potential as a country. How much do we have and how much can we get? And we tell people to come and invest. Let me give an example. From the records we have for now, we just have 10 vessels fishing for tuna. I'm talking of Kenyan vessels. We have four longliners and 6 passenger, just 10. Now, internationally, fishing for tuna is regulated by a regional fisheries management organization known as the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. It is based in Seychelles. Every riparian country, Kenya included, has a quota. And Kenya as a country, our quota for tuna is 5,000 metric tons per annum. It means, as a country, we expected to catch 5,000 tons of tuna every year. But looking at our data, do you know how much tuna we caught last year? It was slightly over 300 tons. 300 tons out of 5,000. That is less than 10%. Actually, it's about 6%. You can project that is the level of our exploitation. We're just exploiting 6% of what has been allocated to us. Now, we sat down as a Kenya Fisheries Service and we did our mathematics. And we found out that for us to be able to exploit 5,000 tons of tuna every year, we'll need roughly 72 vessels out there. We only have 10. So it means we have a balance of about 62 vessels. Now, as a service, our role is now to convince investors to bring in these 62 vessels, which will make us be able to fully exploit our quota. This quota has been there for many years. It's not something which was made recently. It has been there for over 10 years. We are barely touching it, yeah, because of that under exploitation. We don't have those resources. So we are looking at ways we can convince investors to buy vessels, to come and invest. And of course, we are not forgetting our own small-scale fishermen, because we have fishermen at the moment, but most of them are at Sanol. They are fishing using these small vessels, wooden vessels, which cannot venture very far into the sea. Therefore, as the government, we are also looking at ways of promoting our fishermen. Our State Department for Fisheries, Aquaculture and the Blue Economy has come up with a program of training. We are starting with 1,000 fishermen to train them how to do commercial fishing. So they'll be given theoretical training in class, then they shall go for practical training in Bandari Maritime Affairs Academy. Finally, they will be actually taken to commercial fishing vessels. The main thing is for these fishermen to have this experience and know how to do commercial fishing. So this is a program the government has initiated as a way of promoting the blue economy. We want to have this capacity because you'll realize that even for these local fishermen, the local vessels which are currently operating, most of the crew are actually foreigners. Why? Because we lack we don't have people who are qualified to do these jobs. Recently, a vessel was one of our investors, a local investor brought in a longliner from Korea. It had to sit at port for 2 months because he could not source a master for that vessel locally. So eventually he had to source for a master all the way from Korea. These are things which the government is trying to build capacity to cover so that when investors bring vessels to invest or to fish in our commercial fishery, there will be people who will be qualified to work on board those vessels. Therefore, in short, I can say our biggest job now is to promote investment in this sector. That is very critical for this country. If we can have more investors bringing in vessels to fish or to work in our waters as local or Kenyan vessels, that can really take this country very far. I submit, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ogutu. I think it has been very clear what is the role of fisheries. Perhaps you could just clarify again, what is the overall mandate of the Blue Economy Implementation Committee? Just kindly go over that.
Yeah, thank you once again. The Blue Economy Implementation Committee, the main job is simply to make this, I mean, to provide an environment whereby the investors will be comfortable, or it will be easier for people to come and invest in the sector. Now they are looking at things like, for example, I talked about people bringing vessels to fish in our waters. Of course, this will need some infrastructure. For example, we need things like fishing ports, maybe fish landing sites, things like that. So it is the role of this committee to ensure this infrastructure is actually in place so that when people come or bring investment, there'll be something to support. We are talking of, we want to have 72 vessels. Now, when these vessels come to Kenya, imagine we realize that dream. Where will they be landing the fish? Where will this fish go? Of course, we shall need some facilities to do like cold storage or even fish processing facilities. Now, this committee is doing that to ensure that these facilities are in place. And I am happy to mention Liwatoni Fishing Port is coming up. It is actually, that's one of the main pillars of this, what the main jobs of the committee. They are ensuring that that facility is up and running as a fishing port. At the same time, because there used to be a tuna for processing factory there, they are trying to rehabilitate that factory so that in case we have surplus fish, and just to mention, according to the Fisheries Management and Development Act, there is a requirement which currently we are not enforcing because of the limited infrastructure. There's a requirement for all vessels, local or foreign, to be landing 30% of their catches here in Kenya. Legally it is there, but now enforcing it has been a problem because we're asking ourselves, if all of us were to bring 30% of their catches here, who will buy that fish? Where will it go? You see, no, those are the issues now this committee has to address. And thank you that they have started with Liwatoni Fishing Port. Next in line, there is another port coming up in Shimoni. Of course, we know about Lamu. Lamu, there is a provision for a fishing port. This is what this committee is doing to ensure that the infrastructure is in place so that when investment is actually realized, there will be these structures to support that type of investment or that scale of investment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair, may I add something?
Yes, please, Madam Pierce.
Yeah, I think I just want to tie this up with what I had said earlier and also what my colleague Ben has said. Just to say that the Blue Economy Committee, Blue Economy Implementation Standing Committee was actually constituted by His Excellency the President. And you can see the statement that the action sends, that the national head of state is actually in support and has his eyes on what is happening in the maritime space. And therefore, the mandate is quite big, to coordinate and oversee the implementation of prioritized programs, and also report the progress to him directly, so that he has his eye on the ball and to ensure that everything is going as per plan. Now, some of the issues that my colleague has mentioned, you will see that they lie, like I said, in different departments, because like I said, not one department can actually, or the way government is right now constituted, can run with this. And therefore the Blue Economy Implementation Standing Committee brings that element of coordination of the various departments. Like I said, if you think of investments, you're talking a national treasury. If you think of so many other things. He mentioned about captains not being there for the vessels which have flagged into Kenya. So you're talking education. And yet, on the face of it, the Ministry of Education is not part of the blue economy. And that's what I meant when I said that coordination and integration of these policies is very important. When you think of Ministry of Mining, you're talking of Ministry of Environment, Devolution and Planning, because there has to be linkage between national government and the county governments, where the resources actually are working together to make sure that everybody contributes. Then, like I mentioned, we've got National Treasury. Sports, arts and culture, very important, because you're talking of sports, development of water sports as a component of the national ocean economy, and also as supplementary to our tourism, our current tourism products. Ministry of Education, like I said, has mandate for national education, but we have to integrate maritime education, and it's expected to incorporate the international conventions and protocols we have from the IMO and the ILO. Then you talk of transport and infrastructure, Ministry of Agriculture, Interior and coordination of national government, and foreign affairs, because ratification of international maritime treaties falls under this ministry. Public affairs, public service, youth and gender. You need to collaborate and bring an element of integration with them because of capacity development, particularly the programs targeting Kenyan youth, and to direct them and incorporate them into the blue economy. I said Ministry of Health, very important. Safety of life at sea requires entry point into the sector for labor, medical fitness regime, and we even have regulations under the Merchant Shipping Act speaking about medical examination and fitness. Eyesight, blindness, color blindness, hearing, because these are safety elements at sea. Ministry of Tourism also, because of promotion of coastal and marine tourism, like cruise tourism, underwater diving. Then you're talking of energy, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, because of offshore exploration and exploitation of oil and other minerals at sea. Ministry of Lands, the Survey of Kenya has the role for charting Kenyan waters. This is important for safety of navigation. And also we've got coastal state obligations and safety of life at sea convention. Ministry of Labor, very, very important. Right now we are going through ratification of some key conventions that have an implication from the ILO. They go through the Ministry of Labor. Employment of Kenyan seafarers, negotiations for that, their welfare, labor exchange, cabotage, all that is important. So you begin to see that there are so many elements within government that maybe because of our silo structures and the way we operate, we may not be able to speak. And therefore, the Ministry of, the Blue Economic Implementation Committee for the moment brings this very, very important element of collaboration and cooperation, but at very high policy level when it is under the head of state. We've got Ministry of Industrialization, I didn't mention, because sourcing of investments is important. Also, some of the policies we have, WTO, GATS, Economic Partnership Agreement. Then you have defense because of our border race. The Attorney General, because of the law drafting, domestication of foreign treaties. Forestry Department, don't forget the mangroves that impact on the seashore developments and investments. Most important, the judiciary, and also the mediation because of the law, like I said, governance. Parliament also, Now, when you look at that table, you see so many people, so many actors, but if they are not able to talk to each other through this kind of framework and mechanism, then we get lost. I hope I've clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam PS and Mr. Benrick Ogutu, for that very clear explanation of what the implementation committee is doing and what its mandate is. Now, I'm just thinking, what preference has the dispute resolution been given to towards achieving that mandate? You know, have you considered mediation as one of the dispute resolution mechanisms that can be applied or even integrated in the policy to achieve your mandate? Madam Pierce, you can answer, then Mr. Ogutu can also give his views. Yeah.
Okay, let me say that alternative dispute resolution, as we know, is very well entrenched in Article 159 of our Constitution, in its recommendation for promotion of ADR mechanism and as a principle of exercising exercising judicial authority. Like I said before, we need to do much more because we have embraced mediation, yes, as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism and recognized the need to employ neutral, impartial persons to facilitate negotiation between the parties to a dispute, and also in an effort to reach mutually, accepted resolutions. But like I said before, we may need to hold hands and work together to bring in place, particularly for this area, the admiralty laws, because right now, if I may say so, in terms of dispute resolution, we rely very, very heavily on the laws in England. And as long as we haven't domesticated the legislation in terms of maritime governance, we may find it a bit rough to convince, particularly because this is personal. This is an area that regulates relationships between private people, and the investment is very huge when you talk of a vessel sitting in port for 2 months and not being able to earn. You begin to see the kind of resources that are at stake, and therefore convincing players in this kind of terrain to be able to embrace mediation here, we may have our work cut out for us. And therefore, I will recommend very much that we hold hands and craft the legislation that is necessary. In terms of the Merchant Shipping Act, we do have clauses. I may not remember this one, compounding of offenses. And I know that the offenders, in order to be able to release the vessels, are able to go before the Kenya Maritime Authority and accept maybe part of or under terms. And this is an area that I see the mediators coming in, for them to come in and for the offender to prevent his ship from being held in Kenya and not earning, for them to be able then to compound offenses, pay some fine, and be able to have their vessels released. So yes, we've embraced it, but like I say, more work, and we need to do more work. I submit.
Thank you. Mr. Ogutu, would you like to add something to that? Or perhaps tell us what of disputes? Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I can add something.
Yeah.
Madam Pierce has mentioned Article 159 of the Constitution, and I'll also want to give scenarios in the fisheries sector of disputes, of course. There is common, especially when we're talking of a sector like fisheries, which is open. You can say it's open access, everybody is operating there as long as you're licensed. It's common to have these disputes. And there are different types of disputes. Okay, we can leave out the international dispute between Kenya and Somalia. Okay, that is international, is in the International Court of Justice. Looking at our fishermen, we have disputes between artisanal fishermen, of course. artisanal fishermen, the small-scale fishermen operating in the same area. It's common for them from time to time to disputes over fishing grounds and things like that. And then we have our commercial fishermen. It is common to have disputes where one vessel operator will accuse another of either destroying his gear or things like that. We have noticed one thing. There were times whenever there was a dispute either between the small-scale fishermen or the commercial fishermen, they used to go to court. But we have come to realize that even in court, the judges will prefer that these disputes are settled out of court because it is difficult for them to make those decisions. Of course, let me give you an example of a recent dispute. Just happened just last month. One vessel went to fish and set up traps at sea. They normally set traps and go back to port to wait for the traps to catch fish, then they come back and take the traps. Now, by the time the vessel came the following day, it noticed the traps had been destroyed by another vessel. Now, the issue is proving in court that vessel A destroyed traps belonging to vessel B, whereas in the same area, there are many other vessels operating. It's very difficult. Therefore, for such type of issues, even us, they normally come to us as a department or an agency, or people sometimes go to court, but we normally explain to them these things. Even if you go to court, for the judge or the magistrate to come to make a decision, it is difficult because of the so many logistical challenges involved. Therefore, we normally advise them to sit and agree. This is common. It is common in fisheries, especially for the small-scale fishermen. These things happen almost on a daily basis. But at least for the small-scale fishermen, we have the beach, we call them beach management units, the BMUs in short. These are entities which were formed. Of course, they also operate under the same act, our act, and they were formed purely to settle problems between artisanal fishermen. The organizations of fishermen, and their main duty is to look at the welfare. If there are any disputes between those small-scale fishermen, they are referred to the BMU, which will sit down and decide. Now, for commercial fishermen, of course, commercial fishermen, they do not belong to these BMUs. Therefore, there are two options whenever there's a dispute. Either they settle out of court or they go to court. And of course, now, as I mentioned, because of those problems of giving evidence and proving that so and so did this on this day at this time in court, it's not easy. Therefore, this is an area where maybe mediation can work, especially in our whenever there is a problem such as this between these commercial fishermen. If there can be a channel or a way of mediating between them, I think this is an area which can be useful in our sector. So thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Ogutu. The mediators in the audience, take notes, please. There's an opportunity right there for you to offer mediation services. Thank you, Mr. Ogutu. And now I'll move to Mr. Innocent Ngao, Daktari. As a marine researcher and a conservationist in direct contact with the mostly ocean resources and the communities around those resources, I'm sure you've encountered disputes or conflicts, even in the implementation of projects that are affecting those communities. What would you say about those disputes, and how are you resolving them, or what has been your experience?
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you to my able panelists, other panelists, for the information that they have already given. It's quite informative what I've heard on blue economy and resource use and fisheries. What I wanted to say is what we are seeing is that with increasing diversity and intensity of marine related activities, there's bound to be interactions between different sectors. And usually this results in possible conflicts or disputes between the different sectors of the different stakeholders involved. So we've seen that the competing interests could arise maybe from the use of ocean for conservation, or the use of ocean resources for other non-conservation activities. So we notice these two types of possible conflicts and disputes that come about. And what you find that is common across the board is that these people are concerned with the fish stocks, they are concerned with pollution, they are concerned with the destruction of habitats and biodiversity loss. So I would not go a lot into the details on fishing because my colleagues have already given examples of disputes. But what I would like to emphasize is that the Kenyan coastal fisheries, we have at least 10% of the fishing craft which are either small scale or not motorized. So what it means is that most of the fishers are limited in the scale of utilization to the nearshore fisheries. What happens is that you get the kind of conflicts that Mr. Ogutu has given us, either between one fishing gear and another fishing gear. For example, the use of beach seine against the use of basket traps when the traps get destroyed. You also get conflicts like disputes such as between basket traps and gill nets. But these are not limited only to the small scale fishermen. We have the Malindi Ungwana Bay. It's one of the most renowned prawn fishing areas in the country. So you get another type of conflict, which is between artisanal fishers and semi-industrialized fishing operations. So we have this kind of disputes and conflicts arising, but I would like to say that we do get other disputes which are not related to fishing communities alone. A good example is when you get environmental concerns vis-a-vis utilization or extractive utilization, such as a collection of aquarium fish from the areas, or conversion of a mangrove stretch for other purposes, or the poaching, for example, of marine turtles for their meat or eggs. So this usually results in conflict between the communities involved and the concerned either authority at the local scale or the co-management body set up there. Another example of disputes that you come across on the Kenyan coastline, we have about 500 kilometers of coastline, and there's a lot of activities going on. So you get conservation concerns vis-a-vis extractive activities. And fortunately, the country has a lot of resources on the coastal belt. We have limestone, we have coral rocks, and building sand being extracted along the Kenyan coast. For example, if you look at the stretch from Gongoni to Marereni in Kilifi County, almost 5,000 hectares of a certain location is utilized for salt industry. Now, this area is significant mangrove forest area. So disputes would arise if the community feels that the mangrove they rightly depend on is being converted to other uses, and conservation organizations also come in there. We know that in the recent years, there is a lot of increased interest in investment in tourism. You cannot go about without mentioning the advancement of tourism from here in Mombasa, Malindi, South Coast in Watamu, and even Lamu now. So with this increased interest in tourism, then there is a emergence of some unsustainable practices which are now working against the conservation efforts. For example, on coral reefs, when there is improper anchorage, or plastic pollution on the beaches, or you would get a preference of particular seafoods, some of which we have already utilized beyond a certain level. So when this kind of scenario happens, then there's a very high chance that the industry is going to be in collision with the conservation efforts. Now, I think our colleagues have mentioned quite a lot on the fisheries related conflicts that we see. But I just want to say that the coastal communities largely depend on marine and coastal resources. Now, with the advent of this large focus on blue economy, as much as it's a new initiative that is meant to grow the economy, then you find that the small users are likely to feel constrained to a certain small area, and that's why most of the organizations are now starting to focus on sustainable blue economy. I think Kenya, most of the countries are focusing on that. And I think Kenya is leading actually in Africa and in the world in this. So we get to find problems that arise because of much focus on the blue economy are likely to be resolved with the structures that the PS has just elaborated above. Now, some of the instruments that are used to address these conflicts, I know we always run to the courts when you are aggrieved, when you're found with turtle meat or turtle eggs, when you're found with illegal mangrove, you end up mostly in court for that. But I want to appreciate one thing that most government agencies have tried to put in place, and that is a lot of focus on co-management activities along the coast. And this is not only for fisheries where we have the BMUs being empowered to manage these resources. We appreciate that the wildlife sector under the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act is also working with the communities so as to empower them to manage this, and in doing so, they are also managing some of the conflicts that I've listed earlier. And of course, the Kenya Forest Service is coming on board. Now, interestingly, once in a while you get where there is a convergence of these key government departments, then there is disputes which do not get resolved because the Kenya Forest Service might think that This is something that would be handled by, for example, NEMA, where a forest is being cut down or being put to unsustainable uses, or they might be thinking that the county government will be responsible for that section. So as a result, some of these conflicts or disputes are not resolved because of convergence of multiple agencies in certain areas. So this is quite of some of the interesting things that we have seen on the Kenyan coast, which I thought we should bring it up in this discussion, that we might think about how to bring in mediation as a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wanyonyi. That was very insightful. You have mentioned that mediation, there's potential for mediation in this sector, and I'm just thinking about the business community. What do they have to tell us about how they've applied this? And I'll be directing the question to Madam Kubai-Shigoli, from your experience in the shipping lines as a user in this economy, and also perhaps in your capacity as a representative of the business community, what would you say has been the application of ADR mechanisms within the business sector, particularly the business community that is directly in contact or connected to the maritime sector?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as the other able speakers have mentioned earlier, that mediation is anchored in our Constitution under Article 159, Section 2A, or 2C, sorry, where all matters that are referred to court can be screened and referred to mediation if perceived to be a matter that can be mediated, hence the launch of the court annexed mediation. In as far as that is concerned, it means that all disputes that are blue economy related, commerce related, business related, or otherwise, if it's screened and perceived that it's a matter that can be mediated, a panel of court annexed mediators are in place that the matters are referred to. They attempt to handle it through mediation. And in the business sector, at the business level itself, the business owners may not be aware that mediation is an option that they can pick. But fortunately, when it goes to court, the court annexed mediation chips in and pushes the matter to mediation. So that leaves it to us as mediators, as stakeholders, to really embrace mediation as a first choice of dispute resolution, so that you do not end up wasting so much money in paying the filing fees in court, and yet your matter is still referred back to mediation, such that the parties can do the party-initiated mediation and at least attempt to resolve their matters amicably. Because yes, mediation may not necessarily come up with a settlement agreement, but it will open the parties to the issues at hand, and at least those that can be resolved are resolved, so that once the matter is in court, you're only dealing with the legal issues, and those other matters that can be discussed between the parties resolved. So unfortunately, it's a lot of awareness that needs to be created for the business owners to know that there's another option besides going to court that is cheaper, that is more swift, because under the court annexed mediation, the mediator is given 60 days, that is 3 months, to try and resolve the matter. Compared to how much time litigation takes, that is a drop in the ocean. And a business owner who's looking at the cost element and at maintenance of business relationship, I cannot overemphasize the need to amicably resolve dispute through mediation. So yes, while working under the shipping line and the logistics industry, a lot of the matters were referred to courts, and the other alternative dispute resolution mechanism that was in use was arbitration, especially in cross-border matters. But the narrative is changing, and we need to change with it and adapt mediation. Asante, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Shigoli. So So clearly you're agreeing with the rest of the panelists that a lot of awareness needs to be done and joining hands, as Madam PS was mentioning earlier. And now back to you, Madam PS, from your global experience in the maritime industry, what partner states or what jurisdictions can we borrow from, or leave from, in regards to dispute resolution mechanisms within this sector?
Okay, let me say that our regulations, legislations, particularly in the maritime sector, because of the provision in the Judicature Act importing the British law into Kenya, we've aligned a lot, or we've borrowed a lot from the UK. So I think off the head, that's what I would say. We've really grown into, when you think there is something called the White Book, those who are maritime practitioners will remember, where the law in maritime is contained, and when we have maritime disputes of a civil nature, that's what we run to. So that's off the shelf, what I would say. But I would also say that South Africa, from my little interaction with them, have also got a very vibrant legislation, particularly in terms of ship arrests and maritime liens and mortgages. And we may also want to compare with a jurisdiction like Singapore, which has also, made leap whatever steps in terms of maritime jurisprudence. Off the cuff, that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our panel, Madam Shigoli, would you have something to add to that, what Madam PS has just shared?
I would agree with Madam PS that our legislation is largely borrowed from the UK, meaning it leaves the institutions themselves to pursue their disputes based on mechanisms that they cannot really relate to. Hence, there is need to either domesticate those laws into our own laws, or at least develop a law that is locally acceptable. And to this front, I commend the government. In 2020, we have seen a lot of conversation in regard to mediation. There has been the mediation bill that I understand is currently at the third reading stage. A lot of conversation was drawn in regard to that, and I saw some participation from the institutions dealing with mediations and some mediators, or no, the mediation bill should have been implemented. There's also been the ADR Act currently at the committee stage, where the conversation on alternative dispute resolution is ongoing. So at the national level, there is some effort. Unfortunately, we are playing catch up. And I pray that now that the international legislation is being implemented in as far as mediation is concerned, we do not give it so much space that we'll also have to play catch up. Looking at the Singapore Convention, which is also referred as the United Nations Convention on International Settlement Agreement, we realize that signatories to this convention are able to do a lot of cross-border businesses, because any dispute emanating from either country can be done through mediation, and the mediation agreement is directly enforced. One of the challenges that we seem to face a lot in as far as preaching the gospel of mediation is the enforcement of the mediation agreement. So as a country, and thankfully we have Madam PS in our midst, we need to push the agenda where we are taking up legislation that is able to place us at par with the other business hubs, so that South Africa does not take over the bread and butter from us, so that investors can know that in Kenya, we have embraced alternative dispute resolution, and we have mechanisms that are able to support that. So yes, we need to do a lot of catch up, but time is still nigh. Now that we have this new kid in the block, the blue economy, let us, as we are pushing it up to work, and crawl. Let us put all the safeguards and mechanisms that are able to include all matters dispute resolution in place so that we do not have to go back to do amendments once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shigoli. I'll just ask, what would you tell the mediators, because now they have to, wake up and dust their certificates and start taking over the sector. What special skills or knowledge would you advise the mediators on the audience to embrace or to work on to equip them to be able to take on the blue economy?
What I would tell my fellow mediators is that time is nigh. There is no time like the present. Listening to Madam Pierce and the other participants, there's a lot of potential in the blue economy. Already we've been told there are over 87 parastatals, all channeled through the blue economy, none of which have a standardized legislation in as far as dispute resolution is concerned. So we need to keep the conversation going. And as the conversation is going, awaiting the implementation of all those laws that will channel disputes in those institutions, we need to be on our best foot forward. Attain all the necessary skills that you can. Do not be satisfied with your certificate that you achieved to get a mediation. Please go, pick your niche. Get all the information that you can get in the field that you wish to be an expert in. If it is maritime, if it is anything blue economy, make yourself conversant on the conversation that is going. Do certification if you can, so that should a client walk into your office and they want you to mediate a maritime dispute, or should the court annex mediation forward a file to you for mediation in the maritime sector, and you are totally clueless on what a bill of lading is or what demurrages are, it will put you in very bad light with the parties, and especially my very able colleagues, the learned friends, they will put you down if you're not able to have a conversation that is informed in what you're dealing with. So put your skills at work, do as much certification as you can get, invest in yourself. Yes, you may not be getting the returns for your mediation certificate right now because the conversation is really ongoing, but the conversation will not go on forever. Eventually, the implementation stage will be there, and only those that are prepared will be able to benefit from it. So invest in yourself, invest in yourself, invest in yourself is my emphasis in as far as networking is concerned, in as far as paperwork is concerned, in as far as basically just understanding where your key strength is, so that you're not just a mediator, but a specialized mediator in a field who will be sought after. Also, I cannot overemphasize the need for partnerships, and this is a good start where you're seeing mediators coming together to keep the conversation ongoing, because when we are a strong team, we are able to push an agenda. Like, for instance, during the mediation bill, I saw a lot of institutions putting their points across so that the bill would be enriched. But if you're grappling in your own small office looking for a working client to just do a mediation and proceed and move on, it means that the conversation will be limited to you as an individual. But once you are in a unified group, you're able to push the agenda, you're able to come up with the dispute resolution clauses, even in these institutions like the blue economy sector, that are able to safeguard your practice as a mediator. Do a lot of network, attend all the conferences that you can that will enrich your paperwork. Yes, and maintain dignity. As a mediator, your dignity is very, very critical. Let people want to bring their issues to your table. Let them feel comfortable, because mediation as a dispute resolution mechanism has an upper hand because of its social element. besides looking at the policies, besides looking at the laws and looking at what is written, there's also the social angle where relationships matter. So without integrity, people are not able to open up to you, people are not able to feel comfortable with you, people are not able to know that their issues will be held in confidence. So your integrity, both in your office and outside, should really matter. So yes, there's a lot of room for mediation, but we need to strategically place ourselves. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Shigoli. We have to build our skills and professional skills, specifically mediators. I hope you're taking notes. From Dr. Wanyonyi, what will be your take on this issue of mediators building not only just the professional skills, they also need to have do they have to have a special knowledge of maybe what is on the ground? Because from your experience, you work with the communities, you are aware of the ground. We say that the things on the ground may be different from those who interact with at the ground level, grassroots level. So from your experience, what special knowledge or that mediators need to be aware of as they are venturing into this sector?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jay, also for the oversight you've given. I can't agree more. Like the need to understand the maritime law. That is the one thing that you have to have as a mediator. We have to know the kind of measures that are put in place internationally that are set at reversing the adverse effects on the environment. And there's a wide range of this. We have the Jakarta mandate, the Convention on Biological Diversity, the International Law of the Sea, the Paris Convention on Climate Change. Just proper knowledge of these international frameworks is important. Now, if we come back to the local settings, we know different countries use different approaches. And the most common one that we have around here is the utilization of the concept of the marine ecosystem-based management, or it's just known as ecosystem approach, ecosystem-based approach. Now, it's good to have on the team, either yourself or someone else on the team with a good knowledge of how this mechanism is used in addressing or meeting the challenges related to the conflicts that we've already mentioned between the ocean and marine conservation, as well as the conflicts that can arise between the different forms of utilization of the ocean resources. Now, there are a number of things that come around when you're discussing this kind of approach. And one of them is a good knowledge of the main conservation approach taken by the country. In Kenya, we have a network of marine protected areas. It's just good to know how this generally work and the different categories of protection, because we have marine parks and marine reserves. Then we have the integrated coastal zone management frameworks. A good knowledge, as much as these frameworks date some years back, I think the early 2000s, but they form the basis of what is happening now, especially the things that I was talking about where we have multiple entities involved in an issue. And luckily in Kenya, we do have there is an act, environment strategy that is in place that is highlighting this integrated coastal zone management strategy that is highlighting this. So knowledge of this is quite important. I would also say that knowledge of ecosystem-based marine spatial planning, not by the mediator themselves, but a member of the team that is doing the mediation, because what this does is that when you integrate marine spatial planning, it gives it's an important support instrument that kind of puts a balance and coordination between the different usages, the different regulations, and the different resources that we've been hearing all the panelists here already mentioning. And I'm sure the country is going to be focusing a lot on that in the coming years. So it's just good to know what it is about marine spatial planning. And of course, we do need some knowledge on strategic environmental assessment and for plans and programs, or environmental impact assessment for projects. So these are the kind of information that or knowledge that if one is armed with, then they can stand a good chance of making a mediation approach in any conflict situation. I forgot to mention, for example, at the international level, awareness, for example, of the FAO Code of Conduct for Responsible Fisheries. That is one thing that I'm sure my friend Ogutu will want someone to be aware of if you are going to deal with issues between different fisheries and how they are supposed to be managed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wanyonyi. I will now have, I can see there's a lot of engagement on the chat with the audience, which is very good, and we are getting to that just in a short while. Perhaps what we can ask Madam PS is how mediation as an ADR mechanism can help us achieve the goals of the blue economy, because we're in agreement that this is an area that is ripe for mediation, and we're also in agreement that it is the government needs to, you know, take a bolder step in embracing and implementing or entrenching mediation as part of the policies in every government sector, and in this sector particularly. So we just want to hear from you how mediation now, in your views, can help achieve the goals of the blue economy.
Okay, thank you so much. And let me say that I've enjoyed listening to the previous panelists who've spoken. It's a very interesting subject. Now, let me say that, like we've said, blue economy is based on the activities, the width and the broad spectrum of activities that are needed to bring it all together. Because you cannot pick on an area and we say that we've succeeded. We have to pick and integrate and also, you know, do trade-offs, which is going to yield the most. And, you know, in that kind of tableau, confidence is very, very important, because you realize that it's an area that government can never satisfy. And government is best when it provides the environment within which private sector can bring in their money and invest and help grow like a particular area like this one. Now, what I may want to say is that the investor will come if they have confidence, particularly that any dispute arising, there will be confidentiality in terms of dealing with their particular issues, because I've noticed in some areas, you want certain information from a player and they're like, well, that's my business secret. They don't want to give. So if they are coming to a mediator, then they want to be sure that you will have confidence in that person. Your matters will be privately dealt with, and the proceedings will be private and not the next moment your issues are on Twitter, they're on Facebook and wherever. So that's something that the investor will be looking at in order for them to bring their money where we need it. So we need to create that kind of environment. Then, of course, flexibility, very, very important. Will the issues be dealt with, you know, in a flexible manner in terms of time? People are traveling from abroad. maybe because this is an area that is multi, border jurisdictions. So time procedures, because you have different procedures in different jurisdictions, time of venue, and also most important, the cost. Are we going to price ourselves out of this area, or are we going to give confidence in terms of predictability, in terms of the person who is bringing their money? We are wooing them, and we want to create partnerships that last forever, not today and then gone tomorrow. We need also to get, in terms of boosting that confidence, again, minimum emphasis on formalities in order to encourage expeditious disposal of matters. Nobody wants to be tied up in a process that takes 10 years, and the money is, they could be using the opportunities in doing something else. So I think in terms of investment, mediation, because a judicial process will not be able to give us all those issues that I've mentioned. And yet they are the kind of issues that will give this area, this country, the kind of competitive edge that we need in order to bring the players, to bring the people with the money to come and partner with us in terms of doing business with us. But then also we can't only focus on the investor. How about the people locally? What confidence are we giving them that as we partner with the foreigners, their interests are also being catered for in terms of even profit sharing, in terms of equality, in terms of rights, that their rights are not being trampled on, fair employment, for example, very important, fair dealing with them. So we need to have a holistic approach that we are giving confidence, because if we don't give the locals also the confidence they need to be able to deal with those foreigners, then you start getting a disgruntled population. And this is where civil strife then arises, actions, those action groups. So it's a balance that we have to maintain. And let me say that for the blue economy, this is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam PS. And indeed, all the panelists. This is, we are drawing to a close of our discourse this morning. And I really want to appreciate the very enriching views that you've shared throughout this session. As we move to the next segment, which is now addressing the questions from the audience, because I can see there's quite a number of them. I will be inviting the panel to feel free to take on the question that they feel that you can address adequately, so that we can move faster. So I can see from our audience, we are very thankful for the feedback. And from Phyllis Elaine Wangwe, she appreciates the eloquence and articulation of the PS. And says that she has beautifully demystified the blue economy concept for us all indeed, and the integration thereof, and makes her want to cross the shore right away. Thank you, Phyllis. Washika Washira says that in the court annex mediation, once a mediator is done with a matter, it is the court that adopts the consent and enforces it. So she urges the parties and disputants not to fear mediation on the grounds of enforceability. The court will work on that bit. Thank you, Washika. Yes, indeed, the courts have now provided a way in which the mediation agreement can be enforced through the court, because it's adopted as a court order. Thank you for your comments. It's a great discussion. Thank you. Ms. Wangari Kabiru says that the fragmentation of roles and overlap of duties, this must be within the blue economy, yes. Seems the case in the design of the blue economy, and gives fertile ground for disputes. And Washika Washira agrees. I don't know what you think about that, panel. Is there an overlap of duties and roles within the Blue Economy Implementation Committee? This must be the Blue Economy Implementation Committee, which gives fertile ground for disputes. I hope I've captured the question correctly, Wangari.
If I may take a bite of that, and just to understand whether the poser of the question is talking about the blue economy framework the way it is, or rather the way I described how we are organized in Kenya in terms of the overlap, or just talking about the committee itself as it's organized.
No,
but
I think she's sorry, madam. She's talking about the design of the blue economy. The fragmentation of roles and overlap of duties seems the case in the design of the blue economy, and this gives fertile ground for disputes.
Okay, let me say something about this. It's if you look at a blue economy concept, like I said, it's a new developing concept, particularly in our country. So it's not like we set up or we are organized ourselves to set it up the way it is. Hearing and looking at the dissection of the different areas of the blue economy, I would best say that it's a mindset. If you're working blue, you first start by changing your thinking and thinking towards a blue economy. We didn't start or plan to set up the ministries the way they are. We're just coming into this new realization that blue economy touches on many of us. It means for it to work together, we all have to come together and forget the silos, forget our differences, and move to Canaan, if I may use that phrase, together, because we have a goal and we know where we are going. But it's not like we set up ourselves like this. We are just coming into this realization, and that's why the Blue Economy Implementation Committee was set up to coordinate and bring this new thinking into government and to prioritize the areas that have the best potential or the greatest potential to contribute to the national economy. It's looking and seeing, for example, if I may say, look at the Department of Industrialization. We have an area of steel, for example, if I may pick the steel. We want to protect the local industries because they've invested and they're giving us job, and therefore imported steel has taxes and other levies that you pay in order that people may first look at the local market. But then who speaks to the fact that marine steel is not produced in Kenya, and therefore we should segregate it and remove it from that? So are we adding burdens on the shipbuilding and repair industry, which is just beginning to grow? And therefore the committee looks at such areas because nobody else will. And therefore, let me just say that we are in a new dispensation. If you look at Vision 2030, for example, we are right now in the third medium-term plan. The blue economy or the maritime sector has just now been mainstreamed and taken up in the MTP3 because there wasn't that realization in MTP1, in MTP2. So we are working on a journey and we are unraveling the issues as they come up as a government, as a country, and therefore, if we speak about, sorry, I hope I didn't lose you, sorry. If we look at the way the issues are unfolding and developing, we are walking into a new dawn, into a new blue growth mindset, bringing in the components to work together and produce the best results that we can. And therefore, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a rich area for disputes, because when government has taken it up and mainstreamed when government has mainstreamed this area into national development, then if government is leading, it's setting up the process. Are we okay? Am I being heard?
Yes, you can be heard, Ms. Karigithu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I believe Madam Wangari Kabiru, you've been, that answers sufficiently answers your question. And then we have Another question from Wangari, where does financing come from in the sector, and who is involved? What is the relationship like? This is a question again back to you, Madam PS.
You know, we are still learning to manage this thing. Let me say that, like I said, government may not be able to finance the entire gamut of blue economy. So what, and like I said, because the area is too wide, the Blue Economy Committee is charged with identifying areas that have been prioritized for, you know, for blue growth. And one of the areas that has been identified is the capacity building and development, particularly of the youth, in order for them to be able to take part into this area. Then, of course, maritime security. It's one of them. Fisheries is another one. You see, it's prioritizing because you may not be able to do everything at once. And that's where the Blue Economy Implementation Committee comes in, because the reports then, in terms of implementation, they are given priority. If you recall, recently there have been a lot of major steps that have been taken. For example, the launching of the Coast Guard. The government had to provide money to be able to do that. Then my colleague Ben mentioned Liwatoni jetty. That one also, because of the importance it has, the money is found. And that's what I said, it's a question of prioritizing and doing trade-offs. In terms of budget in government, you will never find enough money because there are a lot of competing interests. Is it education? Is it health? Is it food security? All of those. But whatever is left, then we prioritize in terms of the priority areas of the blue economy. The launch of Bandari Maritime Academy is also another case in point, hiving it from the Kenya Ports Authority and keeping it as a standalone institution for maritime training and skills development, and a center of excellence. So that's what I would want to respond in terms of that question. But of course, like I said also, private sector, very important, but government sets the policies and framework in terms of bringing in the people. And as by way of example, you recall what my colleague Ben said about all these fishing vessels that are flagging into our country because the environment and the climate is right. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam PS. Wangari, I believe that sufficiently answers your question. Madam Mudhoni Gatere says this is a great discussion. Thank you, Mudhoni. And from JJ McIntyre from Canada, we have this question: what is the success ratio of matters referred to mediation? And if a matter does not resolve, does it continue in the court system? This, I believe Madam Shigoli can answer this.
Yes, Madam Chair. The beauty of mediation is that it can be introduced to conflict process at whatever point and before the settlement is reached, meaning the parties themselves can initiate the mediation process, or once the matter has been filed in court, the court can refer the matter to mediation. The mediator is given a number of days to help facilitate resolution of the dispute. Should the dispute not be resolved within those days, then the mediator files a report back to the court registry, and the registry recalls back the file for continuation of litigation. Mediation does not necessarily need to end into a settlement agreement, but even the issues that are highlighted during the conversation are well able to help the dispute be easily resolved should it be referred back to litigation. So mediation remains a win-win. Whether a settlement agreement is reached or not, the parties will still have ironed out most of the issues that are likely to hamper the process of resolution of the dispute in litigation. In as far as the success ratio is concerned, I may not have the numbers, But the first implementation of the court annexed mediation was in the family division, and the report showed that 70% of the matters that were referred to mediation were successfully resolved. So that's a highlight of how well mediation works and how much we need to invest in dispute resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shigoli. JJ McIntyre, I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much for your feedback. We have Wangari again, who's asking, from here, where do mediators go to? Which offices or which departments or ministries? And I believe I can tie in this with what Ms. Modoni Gatera is asking, that Madam PS, you emphasized the important role of the implementation committee. Is there room for us to give views to the implementation committee? And here she's thinking about providing mediation as a first step for dispute resolution. So Madam PS, kindly answer that.
Oh yes, we've got subcommittees working within the Blue Economy Implementation Committee, and I would be very happy if you have a paper as a team, then we would be able to bring it across. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your feedback, Muthoni and Wangari. We have another question from, this is more of a comment from Ian Mushiri. I'm very happy to get competency on blue economy. This is an area that controls the economy and disputes may not lack. I want to thank Madam Pierce and the entire team for the breakdown. It's very informative. Thank you, Ian. Wangari asks, are there societies or business associations or community or governmental bodies that mediators may reach out to sensitize about mediation? This is a good question, and I believe Mr. Wanyonyi, Dr. Wanyonyi or Mr. Benrick Ogutu can address that, please.
Yes, let me start, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
We have associations here, and maybe from fishery sector, there is what we call an association of fish exporters, fish processors and exporters of Kenya. It's abbreviated as AFIPEC. This is an association of all, we are talking fish processors and exporters in Kenya. So at least most of the fish processors, and this now includes owners of fish processing factories and these fishing vessels, because most of our vessels are actually factory vessels. So most of these owners of these vessels are members of that association. I will say that they are approachable, and of course, AFIPEC, their main duty is to take care of interests of these guys. And of course, I did not mention it before. I talked of disputes between commercial fisheries people, investors. AFIPEC has been there to take care of their interests. And one of the things AFIPEC is doing is, in case there are issues between those exporters, it is their duty now to see what can be done. The AFIPEC is approachable. Their head office is in Nairobi because it covers the whole country. So all exporters of fish in Coast, Kisumu, wherever, they are members of AFIPEC. And therefore, I will recommend that they can be approached. It seems to be the only operating, it's the only body representing these exporters, fish exporters of Kenya. So, Madam Chair, I submit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ogutu. Dr. Wanyonyi, would you like to add something?
Yes, I think Mr. Ogutu has given us AFRIPEC, which I wanted to highlight. We do have in the fisheries sector an organization, because now we are talking about societies that we can reach out for awareness. And I think the Fisheries Department has organized the communities into Indian Ocean Water Body. There's an organization called Indian Ocean Water Body. This is bringing together all the beach management units on the Kenyan coast. I think that would be a good starting point to try and figure out if we can make more awareness on alternative dispute resolution awareness in the small scale fisheries sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wanyonyi. Then we have a question from a comment from Pauline Wahinya. I think the topic is very important to us as Kenyans, and she would like the PS to take the mediators through this again, if possible. Madam PS, yes, you can take note of that.
Yes, I do, and I agree. You know, discourses like these ones are very, very useful, and anytime I'm always want to take every opportunity to be able to discuss with fellow Kenyans and to bring up awareness. Even though sometimes I'm misunderstood, like when I'm told that I said people don't know English, which was a lie, but I won't shy away from engaging anytime an opportunity arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam PS. We appreciate your presence with us this morning. Thank you, Pauline, for your feedback. Wangari also gives a comment here that the Blue Economy Implementation Committee sounds to be one entity that may be approached for discussion on mediation as part of the wider dispute resolution strategy. And I agree, Wangari. Thank you for that comment. Pauline Wahinya is also commenting that to the PS directly, do you have capacity building and awareness of the public in this area of blue economy? That's
okay. Okay, let me say that in terms of public awareness, we take every opportunity like this one that I've been given. On Saturday, I was with the Kwale Youth Assembly, and any opportunity that comes my way, I always take it. Always on, you know, either on the electronic media or whatever. So any opportunity I get, I will always honor, with even with the LSK. But I may not say that we've got any structured way of doing this. I know Kenya Maritime Authority has it in their work plan to be able to educate the public. But every step counts, every opportunity helps. Because today I believe there's a new constituency that we didn't have before. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, Madam PS. More comments from Phyllis. She's thankful for the presentations and thanks for the great presentations, Dr. Wanyonyi and Mr. Ogutu. They brought out issues that we take for granted. For example, foreigners enjoying our untapped resources due to capacity or lack of capacity. From the measures currently in place, is there hope of us taking it back? And how long is that likely to take? Because once more locals are involved in big time fishing, automatically as mediators, there will be work for us. So yes, this is a very informative session. Dr. Wanyonyi, maybe you can address that question there. Are there measures in place, or is there hope of taking back what has been taken away from the locals?
I will try. I'll ask Mr. Ogutu to finish off this, but what I wanted actually to use this opportunity to raise is some disputes that have been there even before the setting in of the blue economy, because as put by the PS already, we were doing activities related to the ocean, but the government has just decided to focus and prioritize the ocean as a source of food security and socio-economic development. What that has done is that actors who are already participating in this sector then focused more on the sector. So to me, there are opportunities to address conflicts which are coming up, but the specific ones I would not be able to mention, because this actually brings in mind some existing conflicts, for example, in Kenya, whereby for a long time the government has been working to address the issue of fisher migration into and out of the country. So I'm sure with the blue economy, this will arise because we are now tending towards more commercialization of fisheries against the backdrop of small-scale fisheries utilization. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wanyonyi. Mr. Ogutu? Mr. Ogutu? Okay, maybe probably has a connection issue. We can move on to just wrap up the Q&A session. The Wangari appreciates the panel as we do, and she has gained many good insights. Thank you, Wangari. From Fred Committee, we have a comment here. The blue economy is quite as a green area as ADR is, as far as ADR is concerned. The blue economy stakeholders need more contact with ADR practitioners, not only in cross-border disputes, but also within our borders. For example, when fishermen have disputes amongst themselves or even from government agencies. I agree, Fred. Thank you for that comment. And Pauline Wahinya appreciates the PS and the SMEs and mainly women need to understand this area, very true. And Wangari says the other side is a plan for capacity building of these mediators now. Mediators need to map out how the fisheries department can be approached or which NGOs we can approach. And I agree with that, Wangari, thank you. We need to hold hands together and forge forward. We have been given the information that we need this morning and we appreciate our panelists for that. So we are well equipped to take the next steps to be able to take over this sector and make it an ADR sector, or rather an ADR supported sector. So I'll invite our panelists.
Ms. Namachi, you are muted.
Sorry, oh my goodness. Oh dear. I probably went off where?
Yeah, just as you were inviting the panelists. Thank you.
Okay, yes. So I was just inviting the panelists to give their closing remarks, just 2 or 3 minutes or so to just give us the final comments regarding this topic of the day and how your experience has been, and also what you'd like the audience to leave with as we dissolve the session. Karibuni. We can begin with Mr. Ogutu.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, what I can say is that there is room really for mediation in the fishery sector. As I had talked before, we have issues amongst the artisanal fishermen, which can be handled by mediators. We have issues amongst the commercial fishermen, which can be handled by mediators. And of course, we have the organizations for artisanal fishermen, we have the BMUs, and of course there is that body for all BMUs in the Indian Ocean region. And of course I talked about the Association of Fish Exporters of Kenya and Africa. Kenya Fishery Service is approachable. I will say that efforts of mediation can be made through our boss, the Director General, because this is our core mandate. I said conservation, management, and the development of fisheries resources on behalf of the country. Therefore, all efforts which will help us achieve our mandate effectively, I think with that is something which is we can really encourage. We can encourage such efforts to come and help us assist in managing our fisheries resources. And as I talked, especially for commercial fishermen or commercial fishing, most of their issues are normally difficult to even to handle administratively. Therefore, in my opinion, the best option will be to go for mediation. Therefore, it is something which we encourage it in the fishery sector because it will help us achieve our mandate better. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ogutu. Dr. Wanyonyi?
Thank you, Chair, and facilitators and my fellow panelists. I think I've also gotten a lot of information from my fellow panelists, the PS, Ogutu and Joy. And what I'd like to narrow down to, working with coastal communities, we appreciate the efforts by the government to focus on the blue economy. While we are doing this, I think there is an opportunity for mediators to come in, because in one way, as we are focusing on getting more out of our fisheries, there's a possibility that we shall leave behind the small scale operators in this process. And this is a likelihood of a dispute or conflict coming up. And I think we need to have a focus on that particular issue so that we do not leave them behind in the process of focusing on the blue economy. The other issue on small-scale fisheries that actually requires alternative dispute resolution mechanisms is the issue about access rights for both local communities and fishermen along the coast. I think this has been going on for quite a long time, and it is something that can be done at this time round. And then also the issue about the fishermen migration vis-a-vis the local fishermen. So it's not an attempt to demonize migration of fishermen, but to find a way where they can operate in a free space. Because one day in the morning, there's the decision not to allow fishermen migration. The next day they're there. So you see that there's not a proper way of approaching this, but there is an opportunity within the Blue Economy Framework and the committee that is set up to address such issues. And I think alternative dispute mechanisms are required in that sector. All in all, I can say that this session has really enriched my understanding and my thinking towards the whole thing about alternative dispute mechanisms in my sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wanyonyi. Madam Shigoli?
Thank you, Madam Chair, the participants, and the very informed panelists for the enriching discussion. I have learned a lot today from all the panelists, and including the conversation that is ongoing in the chat. And my conclusion of the matter is mediation is a new kid on the block whose character we know is good. But we keep tagging along the big brother who people are aware of and people are comfortable with. Let's introduce the new kid on the block to everyone who cares to listen. Let people see the benefits of mediation, and what better time to do that in the blue economy than right now when the Blue Implementation Committee is settling in office. Developing both concepts at the same time is timely. So mediators, keep knocking those doors. The stakeholders ranging from the business community and the government, keep keep including clauses in your contracts that provide for alternative dispute resolution and especially mediation. Let us preach the gospel, and mediation will not only be an alternative, but be the first choice of dispute resolution. Asante.
Thank you, Madam Shigoli. And Madam PS, you can close this session for us with your comments.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let me state that it's been a great pleasure to be part of this very significant event, being the first time we're having a webinar on navigating the waves of the blue economy through mediation. I want to congratulate the team that set this up, and also, of course, my fellow panelists, and a very engaging audience too. It is my hope that the webinar has inspired ADR practitioners to venture into blue economy matters. We need them. We need all hands on deck. And I want to welcome them. There's somebody who said that, a commentator who said that it's time to leave the shore. And I really want to welcome them into this sector. Everybody, there is something for everybody, let me say. Allow me to once again thank the Coast Mediation and Legal Consultants in partnership with Wasilianahub mediators for having organized and hosted this very, very important webinar. There's something that was said about women before I leave here, SMEs and women. There was something on the chat. And I want to say, whoever said it, if you can organize a time, I would be very happy to bring women on board and to challenge them that in Brazil, cruise facilities, cruise jetties, the facilities that are, you know, that provide services to cruise ships, and Brazil is very rich in this area, are actually owned by groups of women. So it's high time that we encourage our chamas to look at what they can do together and come together in order to explore investment opportunities in this area. So if whoever sent that comment would like to organize something like this where we can exchange ideas, I would be more than happy to come, and anybody else. I'll leave it there by thanking the team that organized and so well ably, executed this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam PS. We appreciate your input and your presence with us this morning, as well as all our able panelists. You have enriched this discourse with your views and with your insights. As the audience, I'm sure we have gained value for the time we have patiently followed through this discussion. As somebody suggested, we need another session, God willing, in the future, in the near future, because this is a conversation that is ongoing and keeps getting more interesting as we move along. So I thank you all for coming, and I also thank our host, Wasilianahub, who have been able to organize this mediation week. There's another session continuing relating to the same theme of the extractive sector. And I will encourage our participants as well as our panelists that if you are able to stay around, then you can we can continue with you to the next session. So thank you very much. I'll hand over back the program to Madam Sarah Atel from Wasiliana. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Namachi. Thank you, everybody. As mentioned earlier, this particular session is running from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. We have had the first session where we have had some engagement, just trying to understand the foundational issues. And the second session, the second bit will be giving us, some more examples of actually what is happening down on the ground. So I pray, Madam Pierce, that you will continue to indulge us in this particular session, as well as all the panelists, that we shall be able to proceed together. Is that okay?
Wow, I would have loved to be able to do it, but now I'm looking at my clock and I have a Senate session coming in a few minutes. So I may not be able to do that, but I look forward to another opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Madam PS. I will just invite the convener of this particular session to be able to make some comments before we can proceed. Ms. Wangari?
Thank you. Madam Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Nancy W. Karigithu, who is the Permanent Secretary, in the Principal Secretary in State Department of Shipping and Maritime in the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works. Mr. Benrick Ogutu, Assistant Director of Fisheries, the Kenya Fisheries Service, Mombasa Regional Office in Kenya. Dr. Innocent Wanyonyi, the Director, the Coastal and Marine Resource Development, that's COMRED in Mombasa, Kenya. Ms. Joy Kubai-Shigoli, the Director at the Coast Mediation and Legal Consultants, that's CMC, Mombasa, Kenya. And in absentia, Mr. David McKay, the Director of NIMSOR Shipping. Our Chair for the first part of this segment, Ms. Joy Namachi, Director at Coast Mediation and Legal Consultants, Mombasa. I greet you from Wasilianahub, and I would really like to pass our appreciation. Earlier on when you were organizing for the session with, I call them the two joys, because they're just a joy. They're just joys to be with. We are from the Coast Mediation and Legal Consultants. The extractive sector is an area that is part of the strategy for Wasilianahub mediators, and it is one of 9 areas of strategy that we are developing the strategy to enable mediators to gain access into sectors which we see the opportunity for mediation to serve in the sectors. So we are delighted that the Coast Mediation and Legal Consultants is really has taken the lead, especially in the area of the blue economy. We started discussions last year in the area of mining, and we engaged with the Ministry of Mines last year. And that is what kicked off our greater understanding of this sector, and really appreciating especially the back that at the end of it, that the environment is what is important. And so we find that this is an area that's really tied quite a number of things. We may call it the extractive sector. There is the blue economy. There is aspects to do with the environment. There is mining. And as the Madam has indicated, that there are quite a number of areas in it. You will kindly allow me, every year as Wasilianahub, we recognize persons who have supported or who we see as supporting the work in mediation. I will kindly request, we have Engineer Audrey Mulama, who is on the call. Kindly, if you can go on video. We have Dr. Mushiri, who's on the call. May kindly go on video. So yes, I see Audrey, Dr. Mushiri. So every year, as we are doing our annual conference, we recognize persons who we see the work that they do supports in mediating. It could either be preventive mediation, or it could actually be that they are engaged in mediation itself. And yes, greetings, Audrey.
Hello.
Very well, thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for welcoming me here and having me here.
Karibu. Yes, we will invite you to speak in a short while, kindly. Yes. Dr. Mushiri Githiria, kindly, you may say hello to us. Dr. Mushiri. Okay. Dr. Mushiri? Okay, Dr. Mushiri may still be muted, but that said, so our awards are citations, and when I say citations, so it's we give a citation to the person with regard to what we consider as something that they have done very well that helps to support the work of mediation or to connect with communities. So our first citation in 2020 is to Engineer Audrey Alimila Mulama, who is the founder of KECBO, Community Interests Company in UK, and also Kakamega Environmental Conservation and Beautification Organization in Kakamega County in Kenya. So the citation to her is she's recognized for her work and her organization's initiatives in mediating future disputes in the community by a focus on environmental conservation and economic livelihoods for families. So Engineer Mulama, we recognize your work because we recognize that your work is avoiding disputes that may come in future. For the colleagues on the call, you will be hearing about the work that KECBO is engaged in. So congratulations, and this is a citation from the Wasilianahub community. Dr. Mushiri Githiria is an engineer and a researcher in the School of Mines, Taita Taveta University. So the citation to Dr. Mushiri Githiria from Wasilianahub, he's recognized for his instrumental role in the development of the mining industry strategy and capacity building of the mediation and dispute resolution professionals. In the year 2020, Dr. Mushiri Githiria has coordinated and hosted sessions with mediators to help us to understand how the mediation industry looks like, to be able to appreciate what is required of mediators if you are to serve in the industry. If you remember earlier, I think it is Dr. Wanyonyi who said that it is important that practitioners have an understanding of a certain sector as they are going to serve it. And the citation is to Dr. Mushiri Githiria for supporting the community to understand the mining industry. In absentia, we have Paul N. Mirie, who is a mineral economist with the State Department of Mining and Ministry of Petroleum and Mining in Kenya. The citation to him is he's also recognized for his instrumental role in the development of mining industry and capacity building of the mediation and dispute resolution professionals in Kenya. So that said, those are the three people that we are giving recognition from the sector that relates to extractives. We have one other recognition to Sharon Sutherland, who is a Director of Strategic Innovation at Mediate BC in Vancouver, Canada. JJ, you're on the call from Vancouver, so you will deliver this citation to Sharon later. We recognize her for her advisory role to the African International Mediation Week 2020 and the Strategy 20 Conference. She has played a significant role in enabling us to run this week. The final citation this year is to Mediator Sarah Ater, who is the moderator of this session. Mediator Sarah Ater is also, she coordinates the virtual series, and she's a moderator and also is a lead for Wasilianahub in the extractive sector. So the citation to Ms. Sarah Ater, who's a mediator, she's recognized for her role in transitioning the in-person mediation community learning and networking forums to the virtual series in 2020. So I congratulate all of you and I thank you, and back to you, Mediator Sarah Ater, so you can take us through the next segment. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kabiru, and congratulations to all the people who have received citations. We pray that you will continue the good work, including myself. This particular session, we will just be looking at some examples from the community and just trying to break down what is it that we have picked from the first part. Some of the things that we have come with from the first segment of this particular discussion this morning is that there are opportunities for mediators, and some of those opportunities which I put down is, you know, the Blue Economy Implementation Committee coming from, you know, the different agencies. We have issues from the fishers which have been highlighted, issues concerning investors which have been highlighted, issues around co-management. And it has also been indicated that there is need for we as mediators to be able to work on our own professional development and seek to understand the different activities that go on within the sector, the blue economy sector. Of course, Madam PS indicated that mediation would be highly favorable because of the things that she listed, the aspect of confidentiality, the flexibility, the time, and the minimal formalities with the procedures that would be appealing, especially to investors. And we would like just to let her know that we took note of her comment that we can be able to prepare a paper for the Blue Economy Implementation Subcommittee, and we will be working on this to be able to deliver. So for this particular session, we have on the panel a young mediator, Rashid Mbuiza, who will be able to give us a commentary. We also have on the panel in this particular session, Engineer Audrey Mulama, who is the founder of the Kakamega Environmental Conservation and Beautification Organization. We have Dr. Mushiri Githiria, who is a mining engineer and lecturer at Taita Taveta University. And we also have JJ McIntyre, who is a maritime mediator and arbitrator. Good morning to everybody on the panel. And I will give the opportunity to Rashid Mbuiza to be able to kick us off by giving the commentary. Mr. Mbuiza.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Sarah, for the opportunity to give a commentary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbuiza. We look forward to your commentary in just about 3 minutes or so. Thank you.
Yes, I'm really happy to be in this session, and I'd like to welcome everybody. I'm a young mediator. I work and I trade under the name The Win-Win Chamber, which is my mediation consultancy. Yeah, and I'm also a community volunteer. I'm also a community volunteer. Sorry if there's some background noise somewhere. Yeah, I'm also a community volunteer working under the Organization for Creative Leadership, which is a community-based organization based in Kwale County. And one of our main objectives as an organization is to conduct informal mediation workshops to enhance conflict competence in the grassroots. So for me, I'm also a community enthusiast. I like community projects, and I hope to learn more from Audrey Mulama and the rest of you all. I'd like to tell you this is going to be a very engaging session. So thank you, Wasilianahub, for creating this opportunity to interact, to share, to learn, and also to borrow leaves from one another. Thank you, Ms. Sarah, for that. Back to you now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbuiza, for that. I will now invite Ms. Mulama to be able to share with us her experience in her organization. Tell us a little bit more about what she's doing and how she has been able to work. Thank you very much, Ms. Mulama. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah Atta. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Yeah, and I'm also excited to be with all of you. And from my end, I'm a mining engineer by profession, and I'm also engaging with community work, basically CBO, known as Kenya Kakamega Environmental Conservation and Beautification Organization. And we are actually based in Kakamega locally. And currently we are also registered as a community interest company in the UK. And we found it very convenient because we like to get the connections from there and things like this. So we are actually working on empowering local communities, more so artisanal miners, who are really engaging in mining activities, let me call them informal mining activities, and they are really not well versed with this particular sector. And what we are actually dealing with is actually the use of mercury and the degradation of land because of this lack of knowledge in the sector. So we are empowering them on giving them alternative livelihoods instead of mining, and also training them on harmful effects of mercury and stopping the use of mercury, because we also understand that mercury, what they're really doing is, getting their gold from mercury and washing the gold, or from mercury in rivers, which I think is very crucial also for the blue economy, because we don't want our fisheries also to get contaminated with this mercury problem. And the main message we are putting it out there is to stop and end the use of mercury. Yeah. You can check out our website, www.kecbo.org, and you can understand more about our activities from that end. And I'm also open to hearing from other participants in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mulama. Perhaps I will put a question to you right away, given that you work with the artisanal miners. In our discussion in the first segment, there was the talk of artisanal fishers and some of the activities that they engage in, perhaps maybe not mentioned, but there are also aspects of illegal fishing, use of inappropriate gears and things like that. What are some of the things that you can share with colleagues at the coast in terms of how you have been able to engage the artisanal miners, and what has made you successful, and what are some of the things that we can be able to borrow from you? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. First and foremost, it is very important for you to work with the local authorities. Engaging the local authorities will give you a better hand to win community trust, because you wouldn't want to just throw yourself out there to the community. They will need to know who you are, where you're from, what your organization does, and things like this. So when you're working with authorities that are at the local level, it is easier for you to be able to handle the situation on the ground. And also another thing, looking for partners who are willing and ready to support your local initiatives, and ensuring your interests and their interests, they go hand in hand. That is what has really helped us as an organization to really understand, to be able to put forward our agenda and our mission and objectives to the ground. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mulama. Could you perhaps share with us some of the conflict issues that you have seen there, and perhaps how they have been handled?
Yes, there are conflicts pertaining more so to community landowners and also the miners, artisanal miners, because we have artisanal miners coming from different regions and wishing to lease land and use land for mining activities. And in the process, there's no documentation of the processes, no documentation of the activities done, no legal binding or legal document being created. So this also creates serious disputes, even for handling to the local authorities. Another dispute we feel is really incoming is the large-scale miners with the small artisanal miners or small-scale miners, or those generally dealing with the informal mining sector. There's a lot of disputes, and we feel that they're not coming up with a solid solution to sort the problem, because the large-scale miner argues that the all gold ore deposit belongs to them since they are doing the exploration and everything. But the small-scale miner doesn't see this and sees the gold mine was there previously before the large-scale miner came by. So they don't understand that there are cadastral systems for you to apply for this particular mining, and also understanding that mining is a very serious and expensive investment and an entity to actually jump into. So those are the conflicts that are currently there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mulama. Good morning, Dr. Mushiri. Good morning, Dr. Mushiri. Okay. Dr. Mushiri, are you on? Okay, we will perhaps be able to come back to him for his comments and some questions. Good morning, JJ. How are you today?
I'm fine, although it's coming up to almost 1 o'clock in Vancouver. So it's very early in the morning.
Thank you for making time to be with us today for this particular session. And we look forward to hearing your experience as a maritime mediator and arbitrator. You're welcome.
Hujamaliza nini banking, usingeniambia nikupelekee. Hapa nasikia unaitwa na watu mko nao. Hii meeting ni yenu.
Sorry about that. I'm just
No, nauliza umemaliza huko. Nasema umemaliza kwa bank. Na umemaliza.
Sorry, JJ. I'm just trying to get that off, and then you can be able to proceed. Okay, JJ, kindly.
Thank you for the invitation to speak to your conference. I was very interested in the earlier panel discussion and appreciating where you are in the path of development of the blue economy in Kenya. In Canada, we have the largest coastline in the world. We've got 3 oceans. We have probably experienced most of the conflicts that you're currently or about to engage in terms of conflicts with the resource development, job creation, and protecting the artisanal interests, both those of the fishers as well as the artisanal miners. I've been asked to speak a little bit about the kinds of conflicts that I end up dealing with. I don't know how many of your members are also arbitrators as well as mediators, but it's quite common for international agreements. And this would include the investor agreements that were being spoken about earlier, and the wishes of the Kenyan government to attract investors to invest in Kenyan operations. It's quite common that you have international contracts and agreements that specify arbitration as a method of dispute resolution. And most of those agreements, especially in the maritime sector, are set up or have been set up historically to provide for arbitrations in one of 3 centers, which gets the lion's share of the work, and that would be Singapore, London, and New York. And those entities try and maintain their control over that kind of conflict resolution. So it's very important for solicitors to look at the contracts that are being entered into and try to make sure that dispute resolution clauses are included in those agreements that provide for local arbitrations or mediations. It is normally the case that before a matter will go to arbitration, the parties will try to seek mediation, or it is the case that after a matter has been sent to arbitration, that the parties will seek mediation in order to resolve their dispute, including those that are before the courts. I have been practicing law I'm into my 40th year. So I've been around the block for a while. I practiced in the area of maritime law for about 20 years and engaged in all different sectors of maritime disputes. And these would be primarily litigation disputes. And at a certain stage, parties that were involved in those disputes realized that I would make a good decision maker or assist in mediating their disputes. So about 20 years ago, I started to become a mediator and arbitrator in maritime and transportation disputes. And the advantage of having someone who's been around the block for a while is that you have knowledge about the industry. So I find that the parties that seek me out to either be an arbitrator or to be the mediator of their disputes, it is because I have subject matter expertise. And that's something very important for your members, your mediators to try and seek out. And I know in the earlier session, it was commented on that your mediators should be going out there and trying to engage in those sectors. But I would suggest that start off in the sectors that you are knowledgeable about and then expand and move into other areas when you can. I asked the question earlier in the earlier session, how many cases are actually successful when they go to mediation? Because I find that in order to successfully mediate a matter, it's necessary that you have both parties willing to understand that they have something to gain by resolving their dispute now, as opposed to going through either an arbitration or the full litigation. But it's also very important that if the parties aren't going to resolve their dispute at mediation, that there be a method in which it could be dealt with expeditiously. International arbitration, UNCITRAL arbitrations, are favored over litigation within national court systems because under the New York Convention, for which most countries are signatories, it's easier to enforce an international arbitration award than it is to enforce a judgment from a national court. And that's one of the reasons why parties seek out or want to have their matters resolved by way of arbitration, as opposed to going through a litigation model. If there are matters that can be dealt with expeditiously, then by all means, the parties should engage in mediation. But I find that along the ways of an arbitration, parties can always mediate. Along the ways of litigation, parties can always mediate. And usually that's what I'm asked to do. Matters may be already before the court, but then they bring me in to try and resolve the dispute after there's been a proper exchange of documents and a proper exchange of evidence so that the parties understand what each other's position is. And it's in those situations where you're most successful in mediation. But if you have one party that is not willing to resolve their dispute, they want to be paid 100 cents on the dollar, then those matters end up going to the full length of an arbitration or litigation. So I'm a member of many different arbitration associations, but I find that most of the ones that I do are actually ad hoc, where I'm sought out by parties, and it's not institutionally administered arbitrations or mediations. It's ones where parties will come to me and they enter into a mediation agreement or arbitration agreement in order to resolve their disputes. So that's a little bit about my background that I was asked to speak about. I know that in the blue economy, it's very important that for your government, through its Coast Guard and its fisheries, and I don't know if Kenya has a Navy, I don't think so, but it's very important that you have the enforcement capabilities to protect your resources. I would, there isn't anything new that's created out there. There's a lot of countries that have already gone through the kind of things that Kenya is about to go through, especially with foreign fishing fleets. And I would look or suggest that you look at some things that haven't worked, like the Ghanaian experience in Western Africa, where the conflicts between the artisanal fishers and the commercial fishers have actually created a major problem for the local economies. The commercial fishers end up scooping up the fish that's destined or should have been destined for the artisanal fishers and then selling it back to them. And that doesn't work for anyone. So I encourage you to look at what has happened elsewhere in the world and try not to go through the same mistakes in the interests of developing your blue economy.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to mention that, yes, we do have a Navy in Kenya, and we also have the Coast Guard that was recently launched. Just perhaps from your experience as a maritime mediator and arbitrator, what do you think, as one of the panelists mentioned in the earlier session, that mediation appears to be the new kid on the block and there is a bigger brother? What do you think are some of the things that can be done, or what has been done to give, in your part of the world, mediation as much weight as arbitration? Or how does it work so that one is not considered perhaps more important than the other?
One isn't more important than the other. Most contracts between parties, if you're dealing with a contractual situation, actually contain clauses that provide for dispute resolution, firstly by mediation, secondly by arbitration. But even after the arbitration starts, there's opportunities to mediate along the way. And the same goes through if it's a litigation matter that's before the courts. Quite often, parties will already have started through the court process and be partway down that path when they decide that there might be a possibility to resolve their disputes by bringing in an independent third party, neutral, who may have some knowledge about the sector. One of the reasons why I get chosen to try and resolve disputes is because I do have that knowledge about the industry, so that they don't think that they're wasting their time by educating me on the subject matter. I know the issues, I know the risks, and I've probably been involved in somewhere along the way in terms of disputes as a counsel for parties in the past in that same area. So it's they work together. The courts, I think, in every country are overrun. There are far more court cases than there are judges to hear them. It can take a long time for court cases to work their way through the system. It's common here, at least before COVID, that if a case was filed today, you would be looking at a trial 2 to 3 years down the road. After COVID, it's even worse, because a lot of the civil cases just don't get heard at the moment due to the protocols that have had to take place. Our court system shut down for a period of time while it dealt with or tried to work out systems to handle the COVID crisis that has affected this part of the world more than it has possibly in Africa.
Thank you for that, JJ. Perhaps being both a mediator and arbitrator and having experience in both, what do you think, or do you think there would be any impact with the Singapore Convention on Mediation coming into force? Do you think this is likely to impact the way these two fields are continue to work?
I don't really see that it's going to make much difference in terms of the cases that actually resolve at mediation. It's just another method or another mechanism for parties to be able to try and resolve their disputes through a neutral. And business people, they want to be able to have some certainty. They want to have fairness or a system set up that they think is fair, that will listen to their side of the dispute and try and bring the parties together to so that they can each understand each other in terms of their issues and hopefully recommend a solution that they can all live with.
Thank you. Also, from your experience, are the matters coming mainly from the courts, or do the parties on their own decide to pursue either the mediation or the arbitration independent of the court?
Generally, the parties choose it independently from the courts, but the courts can also order mediations. The problem with court-ordered mediations here is that you may end up, and probably will end up, with a party that doesn't want to mediate. And unless you have both parties willing to resolve their disputes at mediation, it becomes an exercise in futility. You need both parties willing to listen and try and resolve their matter. And that's why I asked earlier, what was the percentage of success rates in terms of mediations that are taking place in Kenya?
Thank you very much. And perhaps finally, what would be your advice to us as mediators, knowing that mediation is fairly a new profession in the country and just beginning to grow? Of course, you have mentioned that it is important in your own example, being able to get matters because of your subject matter expertise. What are some of the things that we need to think about as mediators as we seek to grow the practice?
Well, I think these kinds of conferences, for one thing, are very important for you to hold. There are some international groups and organizations that some of your members may wish to involve themselves in. One of the organizations that I'm involved in is an International Congress of Maritime Arbitrators, and they usually hold an international conference or congress every 2 to 3 years. And it's a good way to meet people within the profession internationally that may be dealing with the same issues. You're not creating the wheel. It's been done before. So it's helpful to be able to exchange experiences with other parties internationally as well as locally. But I'm fully in favor of local disputes being resolved locally. And I wish you the best of luck in terms of being able to get that point across to not only your members, but all people within that might have services or use your services within Kenya or throughout Africa. You want to be able to be recognized as being fair and as being able to listen to the parties and bring the parties together to resolve their disputes. We find that there are different sectors in North America that become very specialized. Labor, for example. There are mediators and arbitrators that are only involved in labor matters and employment matters, and they stay entirely within that field. There's a lot of work for them. They don't have to step outside of it. Family law, the family mediators and arbitrators, they stay within that field. I'm on the commercial side, so I'm involved in commercial disputes. I'm also involved in sports disputes. And there is a special organization that was set up by the Government of Canada as the Sports Dispute Resolution Center of Canada that basically took away all disputes involving sports selections for international teams, for example, international dealing with national federations that took those disputes out of the court system by setting up another system independently to resolve those disputes. So they have specialized mediators and arbitrators familiar with the sports system, familiar with the sports. Many of them have been past athletes themselves, and they deal with matters on a very expeditious basis. We have hearings that take place over the telephone, and a decision is reached within 24 hours. And sometimes that has to be the case. And I think there's an opportunity perhaps to look at that model and apply it to other areas of industry in Kenya. Maybe not with the fishers if you already have a system set up in place, but there has to be a way to have parties able to resolve their disputes other than going through the court system. You're a common law system, a common law country as we are, so most of the disputes are going to be have to be contractually related, the ones that you end up seeing, unless you have a statutory right in order to be able to resolve your dispute through another mechanism. And that's basically what's been put in place with the sports dispute resolution system. But there is a possibility for specialized entities to be able to resolve certain disputes.
Thank you for that. You mentioned an important aspect of being able to have, disputes being managed or handled locally as opposed to internationally, if I got you correct. We do still have a lot of disputes from Africa going out into other jurisdictions. How do you think we can be able to work this out so that we have the disputes, especially with the capacity building, we have the disputes being managed and addressed within the continent?
Well, it's you're always going to have conflict because those entities that are already eating your lunch are going to want to continue to eat your lunch by having the disputes come to them. So they do a good job, and London in particular is very good at this and going out and representing to the world how good they are and why their arbitration system is the best in the world, and why wouldn't you want London as to be your center of arbitration, your center of your dispute? The same thing holds true with other entities as well. I mean, in Vancouver, we struggle in order to try and get written into our contracts or written into contracts that Vancouver will be the seat of arbitration. Or the seat of dispute resolution. The same thing is what you're going to have to go through in getting Nairobi, or I presume it would be Nairobi, as designated as the seat of dispute resolution in your agreements. But you have to work on the solicitors. It's easier for them to go with what has happened before, rather than create something new or create a possible area of disagreement with the party you're entering into a contract with. It's easier for solicitors just to say, well, this has worked in the past, so there's no need for me to do something about this. And then it isn't until the parties end up in a dispute that they find out that they're required to go to London or they're required to go to New York. And they go, well, this doesn't work. This is far more expensive for us than we were planning on. But it goes to the contract stage. You need to get the parties looking at their contracts at the beginning and looking at how disputes are going to be resolved. And that's got to be done by the solicitors. I'm a barrister, so I only deal with what happens after the dispute has arisen.
Thank you very much for that, being able to share your experience and being able to give us some tips on how we can be able to have, some of that pie.
You have to. You need to build up your expertise, and you do that through these kinds of organizations, and maybe setting up mock mediations with the industry, mock arbitrations, whatever it takes in order to get the message across the industry that you're capable and qualified to assist them.
Very well noted. Thank you very much. Most appreciated. I'll give an opportunity to Dr. Mushiri if he is available. Dr. Mushiri, are you?
Yes, I am available.
Okay.
I apologize for my absence. I had an emergency. I told you earlier, but yes, everything is okay. My 2 cents are on whatever you guys have been discussing, and I'm always learning from you guys because the arbitration, the law stuff, us as engineers, we don't care about that. We just care about the money that we're getting from the mine. So whatever we get from the mine is what matters. So, but we need to think about the community and the community we're living in. And that's why I compare my, whatever I do or whatever my colleagues do, either in the energy sector, the mining sector, whichever sector you're dealing with, oil industry, the mining, artisanal, whatever sector you are in, you're dealing with people who are trying to make money out of whatever they're digging out of the ground. And for you right now, I think you're talking about whatever you're getting from the sea, from the fish, from the lakes, from the ocean. And the same thing you're getting from the ground is you're maximizing on the profits that you're getting, and conflicts come about. So whatever I've learned from the blue economy conversation from the PS earlier, I missed out on a few presenters, but what I've learned from the guys is we all doing the same thing. We have to look at the environment, the economic, all the factors that govern the whole sector. And if we have to live in harmony, we have to have this arbitration system working, where we deal with issues amicably to solve the issues properly so that we can make money out of whatever we are doing day in, day out. I don't have any questions. I've learned today. I've never been in a conference with people who are speaking about blue economy. There's some things which have been highlighted, especially by the PS, and I've learned a lot. So I don't think I have questions. I just commend you guys and you're learning a lot. You being arbitrators, you're stretching your knowledge on every sector, and that's very commendable because I'm only in mining, and I will always be in mining, unless I'm in business and farming or whatever else we try and do, make money. But in terms of professionalism, I'm only in mining, and I commend you guys as arbitrators in whatever you guys are doing, trying to have these conferences where we can learn from each other. And I think that's all. I don't know what I was supposed to, I don't have questions per se, because this is my first time having a conversation with the blue economy, but I can say there's a similarity between whatever we guys do in the mining sector, the energy sector, or whichever, however you call it, the oil, gas industry. We get something from the ground, you guys get something from the ground, and we're trying to make money, and the issues which come about. And to live in harmony, the arbitration comes about. So it's good to learn, as Joy said, that we keep learning and learning. If you get a certificate and getting certificate, to learn more and more from every other sector so that you can be equipped with the knowledge to handle any issues that comes about. I don't know, Sarah, that was my 2 cents, and I don't know if I can add anything more than that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Mushiri. I know apart from being a mining engineer, you were also in academia. And one of the points that was brought up earlier on, the PS gave an example of capacity where they could not be able to have someone, an investor couldn't have someone to captain the boat or the facility. How do you think we can be able to engage academia in these conversations? How can we have more research and that would be relevant? Because as we talk about the blue economy, we have the aspects of the resources that are there. So we have all these different players. How can we be able to engage in specifically with the academia and researchers?
Okay, thank you for that question. My take is always, whichever sector you're talking about, we have to engage as stakeholders. And I just want to summarize the stakeholders as academia, government, and the industry. The industry being the professionals who are working there to make money. Academia, us who are doing the research in the institutions, whether in the university, the institute, the colleges, and all that. And then we have academia, government, then the government to regulate the whole industry as a whole with the regulatory authorities and the legal framework where you guys also work under. So I'll take an example like marine, because you guys are talking about maritime issues, blue economy. Marine engineering is being offered in JKUAT. And to do practical work, they have to go to Mombasa. And I think one of the campuses in Mombasa, I'm not sure, they're dealing with issues regarding the maritime guys who are there. I think there's a department concerning marine engineering in that sector. So they have to get the practical work from somewhere. And that somewhere is the industry or the government. So when we work in synergy, either the academia, we don't have the industry as ourselves, you have to get to the industry. So if all come to work together, like other countries where they're doing the same. If you have a problem as an industry, you don't solve it by yourself. You look for experts who are in the academia, work together with the experts who are in the industry, and also the government where they can channel their knowledge, their money, so that you can get solutions out of that. So when you have an issue, raise it up, partner with someone who's in the industry, in the government, like an institute, someone who's in the university as academia, and someone who's in the industry as, for example, the guys who are working in the ocean as companies who are trying to do something. I'm really not sure about marine, so I will not give proper examples with the industry, but this is what my view is. Industry has to work in in synergy between the three guys, academia, government, and industry. So you have a problem, we try and get a solution, and solution comes between the three of us. No one works in a silo. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's what my view is. Everywhere in the world, that's where I think they do this. We make money out of the research. You make money out of that as well. I help you get the solution, and we all benefit from that system. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We are just coming to the close of this particular session. I will give an opportunity to each one of the speakers to be able to share their closing remarks, and then we will be able to close the session. So, Ms. Mulama, kindly. You're muted, Ms. Mulama.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Sarah Atta. Yeah, for my closing remarks, I think there's a great opportunity for mediators in the blue economy. When we're talking about environmental, how the Mr. let me just confirm his name. How Mr. Innocent Wanyonyi gave us an overview of how conflicts are emerging with regard to environmental issues, environmental audits, things like this. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for the mediators also in the mining sector, where we are also dealing with issues like land and land disputes. So I would urge us to broaden our opportunities to also such kind of arbitrations to be done here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mbwiza, your final comment.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sarah. What I can say is it's been a very fruitful conversation. I've gathered a few points that I can use to improve myself as a person, as a mediator, and also generally as a professional, because I'm not only a mediator, but also a trainee advocate. Things that I'm looking forward to perfect on. And my focus on community work, I'd really like to network more with and to learn more about how she's doing projects, how she's with other stakeholders on conflict resolution and how to come about challenges that they're facing. So I know I haven't been very settled today. I've had some circumstances that I could not avoid, but I'm grateful. I've been following the conversation, and I thank all the participants and the panelists for attending the session. I'd like to say it's been fruitful, and I'm looking forward to network with all of you through Wasilianahub. So for purposes of networking, I'll leave my email on the chats and also my phone number. So I'm looking forward to further engagements with everyone involved. Thank you very much. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbwiza. JJ, kindly, your final comments.
Oops. Thank you for the invitation to speak to you today. Ms. Malama, what you're doing is very important. I hope you are successful in keeping mercury out of the environment. I trust that you will provide the artisanal miners with an alternative to using mercury so that they can still mine, but do it in a safe manner that will protect the environment. But thank you for the invitation to speak to you today. If I'm not coherent, it's because it's so early in the morning here. But best of luck with your the rest of your conference.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shigoli. Ms. Shigoli. Okay. Ms. Namachi, any final comments?
Okay. Yes, Sarah. Yes, Sarah. I really appreciate the very insightful session that we've had from JJ and Audrey. Yes, but for the moment, I have no comments. Just to thank them for enriching our views on this topic of today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the session that we have had this morning. The session that we have been looking at navigating the waves of the blue economy. using mediation, and we have had 2 sections in this particular session, and we have had very good engagement with all the panelists. We appreciate your participation, participation of all the panelists, participation of all the participants. And we look forward to having you join us in the next session. The next session begins at 1 o'clock. We shall be using the same link for the next session. And the 1 o'clock session is focusing on the Young Mediators, the International Mediation Institute, and the Young Mediators Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. In bringing this to a close, we will be able to recite together the words of the national anthem in English. O God of all creation, bless our land
and army.
Justice be our shield,
Our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in the morning session, the International Seminar on Mediation in the Extractives sector. This particular session was hosted in collaboration with the Coast Mediation and Legal Consultant. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.